I never thought I'd be the guy whose wife cheated on him. I was the quintessential husband, the type who believed in loyalty, love, and building a life together. My wife Jessica and I had been married for 5 years. We had what I thought was a solid relationship. Sure, we had our ups and downs, what marriage does, but I genuinely believed that we were in it together for the long haul. We were the couple everyone admired, the ones who seemed to have it all figured out. But things started to change. It was subtle at first. Jessica began working late more often, claiming it was due to some new project at her job. I noticed her texting a lot, but when I asked her about it, she always brushed it off, saying it was work-related. I wanted to trust her, so I did. After all, who was I to question her integrity? Yet, something felt off. There was a distance between us that I couldn't quite put my finger on. The little things, like her laughter and the way she would curl up next to me on the couch to watch TV, started to fade. One evening, I decided to surprise her by making her favorite dinner. I cleaned the house, lit candles, and even picked up a bottle of wine. I had this image in my head of us reconnecting over a lovely meal. But when I got home, the house was eerily quiet. I checked my phone, hoping to find a text from her saying she was running late. Instead, I found a text from my best friend Tom, asking if I had seen Jessica at the bar downtown. That struck me as odd. Why would she be at a bar without telling me? I brushed it off as harmless, but that skepticism crept back in. That weekend, I was cleaning out the garage when I stumbled across an old box of memorabilia. Inside were photos from our wedding and some old letters we had written to each other. I smiled for a moment, reminiscing about happier times. But then I found something that made my blood run cold. A receipt from a hotel not too far from our home, dated just a week prior. It was enough to ignite my suspicions. I tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was for a work event, but deep down I knew. The following day I decided to do some detective work. I casually asked Jessica about her week, looking for any signs of deception. But she was so carefree, talking about work and friends, it made me sick. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong, so I took a different approach. I decided to follow her the next time she said she was working late. I told myself it was just to ease my mind that I wasn't the jealous type. But as the day approached, the pit in my stomach grew. That evening I waited until she left for work. I got into my car and drove toward the office she claimed to be at. I parked a few blocks away and waited. After about 30 minutes, I saw her get out of the car with someone else. My heart sank. It was Dave, the DJ from our wedding. My mind raced through 1,000 thoughts, all crashing down like a house of cards. I watched as they walked into a trendy bar together, laughing and looking far too comfortable. I couldn't believe my eyes. I sat there frozen for what felt like an eternity. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. My wife was cheating on me with the guy who played our first dance at our wedding, the very DJ who was supposed to symbolize our love. I felt a surge of betrayal, anger, and crushing sadness. The very foundation of my life felt like it was crumbling in an instant. By the time I got home, I was a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't know what to do next. Should I confront her or should I gather more evidence? My mind was racing, but one thing was clear: I needed to confront her. I wasn't about to let her lie her way out of this. I had to know the truth, and I had to make her face what she had done. I was ready for a showdown, and little did she know this would change everything. The confrontation happened the next day. I barely slept a wink, replaying the scene from the bar over and over in my mind. Everything about it felt surreal. I spent the morning packing around the house, my heart racing, my fists clenching as I tried to prepare myself for what was about to go down. I kept telling myself that I had to be calm, collected, and ready for any excuses she might throw my way. But deep down, I was furious. When Jessica got home that evening, the air in the house felt thick with tension. She sensed it immediately. I could see the worry in her eyes. She tried to greet me with a smile, but I couldn't reciprocate. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting for her to say something. After a few moments of awkward silence, I decided I had to dive in. "Jess, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. I wanted to sound authoritative, but my voice trembled with unspent rage and hurt. "Okay, what's up?" she replied, her brows furrowing. I could see her struggling to read my expression, but I knew she had to sense that something was wrong. "You went out last night, didn't you?" I asked, trying to gauge her reaction. "To meet Dave." The change in her demeanor was instant. She stiffened, and suddenly, the cool, confident Jessica I knew completely vanished. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice rising defensively. "I was at work." "Don't lie to me, Jess. I saw you. You were with him. You were laughing and leaning in close. You were clearly enjoying yourselves." I spat out, my words laced with accusation. Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked genuinely shocked. "You're being ridiculous. How dare you follow me?" She shot back, indignation creeping into her tone. "You must have misunderstood something." "Misunderstood?" I almost laughed. "I saw you two together. I saw you leave the bar. I know what I saw, Jess. Why are you lying? You've been lying for weeks." She took a breath, her entire posture shifting as if she was trying to gather her composure. "Okay, okay," she said, raising her hands in a gesture of surrender. "Let's just calm down for a second. It was nothing, just a friendly drink." "Friendly drink?" I scoffed. "That's your excuse? You're seriously going to stand there and tell me that you're just friends with the DJ you had a fling with? I can't believe you'd even think I'd buy that." Jessica's expression hardened. "You have no idea what you're talking about," she shot back. "I don't owe you an explanation. You've been so absorbed in your work that you've barely paid me any attention. Maybe if you had been more present, I wouldn't have felt so alone." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. I had been busy with work, that was true, but I never once considered that it would push her to cheat on me. "So it's my fault?" I asked incredulously. "You decide to screw around because I've been busy." "I'm not saying that," she said, her voice softening a bit, "but you have to understand what I was going through." I shook my head, feeling the anger boil over. "No, I don't have to understand anything. You made a choice, Jess. You chose to betray me. You chose to lie. You chose him over me." I was practically screaming now, and I could feel the tears welling in my eyes, a mix of rage and heartbreak. She looked away, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. "It was just a mistake," she muttered. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "A mistake?" I echoed. "You've been seeing him for weeks. That's not a mistake, that's a decision. You decided to cheat on me, and now you want to turn this around to make it my fault. Are you serious?" Jessica opened her mouth to respond, but all that came out was a shaky breath. I could see the realization hitting her that I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to let her manipulate the situation. I took a moment to gather myself, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I don't think there's any coming back from this, Jess. You've shattered everything we built. I can't trust you anymore." The weight of those words hung in the air between us. She looked down, her bravado crumbling as tears began to spill down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she finally said, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you." But it was too late for apologies. I had already made up my mind. The trust was gone, and with it, the foundation of our marriage. This was no longer about saving our relationship. This was about me finding a way to reclaim my life. I felt a flicker of anger rise inside me, but alongside it was another feeling: freedom. I realized I didn't have to stay in a relationship built on lies and betrayal. I could choose to walk away. As difficult as that was, a sense of empowerment washed over me. It was time to start thinking about my own happiness. After that explosive confrontation, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. I felt a rush of empowerment, but it was quickly overshadowed by a heavy sadness that settled in my chest. I had just confronted my wife about her affair, and while part of me felt victorious for standing up for myself, another part of me mourned the loss of the life I thought we had together. Jessica left the room, her sobs echoing down the hall as she retreated to our bedroom. I remained in the living room, packing back and forth, my feet moving as quickly as my thoughts. I couldn't shake the image of her and Dave swirling in my mind, laughing and enjoying each other's company, while I thought everything was fine. The betrayal cut deeper than I had expected. I texted Tom, my best friend, asking if we could meet up. I needed someone to talk to, someone who understood. He showed up at the house within the hour, a six-pack of beer in one hand and a concerned expression on his face. "What the hell happened, man?" he asked as he stepped inside. I let out a harsh breath before falling onto the couch. "She's cheating on me, Tom, with the DJ from our wedding. Can you believe that?" His eyes widened and he sat down next to me, shock written all over his face. Holy shit. I'm so sorry, dude. What did she say? I relayed the whole story from the initial suspicions to the confrontation. Tom listened intently, nodding in all the right places. Look, I know it's a tough situation, but you're better off without someone who can betray you like that, he said, trying to offer solace. Yeah, but it still hurts, you know. I trusted her. I thought we had a good marriage, I replied, feeling a lump form in my throat. Now I don't even know what to do next. Should I divorce her? Part of me wants to make her feel the same pain she's caused me. Tom raised an eyebrow. Maybe you should. A little revenge can feel good, especially when you've been wronged, but just make sure it's what you really want, not just a reaction to the hurt. His words struck a chord. Revenge. I hadn't considered it seriously until now. My heart raced at the thought. It felt wrong, but the idea of making her regret her choices was enticing. What do you think I should do? I asked, looking for guidance. Well, why not throw a divorce party? Tom suggested casually. Make it a big deal. Invite friends. Celebrate your freedom and let her know you're moving on without her. The idea hit me like a bolt of lightning. A divorce party. It was bold, maybe even a little crazy, but it felt right. I could reclaim my happiness and show Jessica that she wouldn't have the last laugh. I could turn this whole situation into something empowering, a way to take back control of my life. Yeah, I could do that, I said, my mind racing with possibilities. I could invite everyone we know, make it a big celebration. It'll be my way of showing her that I'm not broken, I'm moving on. Tom grinned. Now you're talking. You could even make it a themed party. Maybe something that reminds everyone of how good things used to be before she messed it all up. Perfect. I'll make it an I'm free theme, I said, already envisioning the decorations and the vibe of the night. I'll get the music going, maybe even hire a DJ to really rub it in her face. As Tom and I planned out details, I could feel the adrenaline rushing through me. It was the first time since the confrontation that I felt a sense of excitement. The sadness was still there, but now it was coupled with a spark of hope. I was going to take charge of my life again. When I finally went back in to face Jessica, I found her sitting on the edge of the bed, wiping her eyes. We need to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I know I messed up, she said, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to fix this. Fix this, I repeated, incredulous. You can't just erase what you did. I don't even know if I want to fix this. I'm thinking about throwing a divorce party. Her eyes widened. A divorce party? Are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. I'm celebrating my freedom from a marriage that was built on lies. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. Jessica's expression shifted from disbelief to anger as the weight of my words sank in. You think that's a good idea? You're going to throw a party to celebrate our failure. Why not? It's my life and I deserve to be happy, I shot back. You chose to cheat on me and now I'm choosing to move on. This is happening, Jess. I'm done with the lies. Her expression crumpled and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. But it quickly vanished, replaced with a rush of satisfaction. This was my moment. I was reclaiming my life and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. The divorce party was going to happen, and I wanted everyone to know that I would not be defined by this betrayal. I would rise above it. I felt a newfound strength coursing through me, lighting a fire that had long been extinguished. I was determined to turn my heartbreak into something powerful. The preparations for the divorce party took on a life of their own. I quickly transformed my initial idea into a full-fledged plan. There was a cathartic thrill in organizing everything, a chance to channel my pain into creativity. I started by creating a guest list, reaching out to friends and family, and making it clear that this was not just a goodbye to my marriage but a celebration of my newfound freedom. Tom helped me brainstorm ideas for the theme. We chose I'm Free as the title. I wanted the night to feel like a complete departure from the betrayal I had endured, a night where I could reclaim my joy. I decided to decorate the house with playful, vibrant colors and set up a bar area where everyone could grab drinks and celebrate. We even planned a few games that would poke fun at my ex-marriage while bringing everyone together for laughter. I enlisted a local DJ, someone fun and upbeat to create a party atmosphere. This is going to be amazing, I told Tom as we finalized the details. I can't wait to see Jessica's face when she finds out. The day of the party arrived and anticipation buzzed through me like electricity. I spent the morning setting up, hanging colorful streamers and arranging the food and drinks. Friends began to trickle in, bringing positive energy and support. Their laughter and excitement filled my home, and for the first time since the confrontation, I felt genuinely happy. As the evening progressed, I noticed a mix of emotions swirling within my guests. They were excited to see me taking control of my life, but they also felt the weight of the situation. Many expressed their sympathy for what I had been through. I made light of it, joking about the ridiculousness of my situation. I thought I was just getting married, not auditioning for a daytime soap opera. I quipped, which elicited a wave of laughter. But as the night wore on, I felt a pang of guilt creeping in. I briefly glanced at my phone, half expecting a message from Jessica. I knew she would be watching from a distance, perhaps having a few mutual friends report back to her. Part of me wondered if what I was doing was too harsh. But then I remembered the pain she had caused me, the lies she had told. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity. As the party picked up steam, the DJ started spinning tracks that got everyone dancing. I joined in, letting loose, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt free. Friends pulled me onto the dance floor and I lost myself in the music and laughter, surrounded by people who genuinely cared for me. I felt the weight of my heartbreak lifting, even if just a little. Midway through the festivities, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Jessica. "I'm really sorry for what I did. I want to talk, please." My heart raced as I read her words. Part of me was tempted to respond, to tell her how I was celebrating my freedom, but I held off. I wanted to enjoy this moment without letting her back into my headspace. I didn't want to let her guilt or sorrow cloud the happiness I was experiencing. The party continued, and I embraced the atmosphere of celebration. Friends encouraged me to share my story with everyone, to open up about the journey that had led to this point. I stood up, took a deep breath, and shared my experience of betrayal and heartbreak, but also how I was choosing to rise above it. To new beginnings, I cheered, raising my drink. Here, to letting go of the past and embracing the future. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers, and I felt a rush of validation. I was no longer the hurt husband standing in shock. I was a man reclaiming his life. As the night drew on, I noticed the door open, and in walked a couple of mutual friends who were still close to Jessica. My heart sank a little, and I braced myself for the awkwardness that would follow. They approached me with hesitant smiles, clearly unsure of how to engage given the circumstances. "Hey, we just wanted to check in," one of them said carefully. "We're really sorry about everything that happened. We know this is a tough time." "Thanks," I replied, trying to keep my demeanor light. "But tonight is about celebrating. Moving forward, I'm not dwelling on it anymore." They nodded, but I could see the uncertainty in their eyes. "Jessica really wants to talk to you. She's been trying to reach you," the other one added. I felt my stomach twist. "I know. I'm just not ready to have that conversation right now. I need to focus on myself. I appreciate you guys coming by, but this is a celebration, remember." They quickly reassured me they understood and joined in on the festivities, but I could tell they were uncomfortable. It was a reminder that the ripples of Jessica's actions extended beyond just us. It affected our shared friends too. As the night wore on, I found myself getting lost in the music again. I danced, laughed, and partook in the revelry that surrounded me. I wanted to remember this night as a pivotal moment in my life, a clear signal that I was done with the pain and betrayal. Toward the end of the evening, Tom pulled me aside. "You did it, man. You turned this whole situation around. I'm really proud of you," he said, his smile genuine. "Thanks, Tom. I couldn't have done this without your support," I replied. "It feels good to take back control, you know. It's more than that. You've shown everyone here that you're not going to let her betrayal define you. You're moving forward. That's powerful." As I looked around at the faces of my friends, their smiles felt like a warm embrace. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at that moment I felt invigorated and ready to face whatever came next. I was reclaiming my narrative, setting the stage for a future filled with possibility. No matter what happened with Jessica, I knew I would come out stronger on the other side. The aftermath of the divorce party was a whirlwind of emotions. I woke up the next morning with a throbbing headache, remnants of the celebration still echoing in my mind. But more than the hangover, I felt a sense of clarity. The party had been a cathartic release for me, a loud declaration that I was done hiding from the pain Jessica had inflicted. I had turned the situation around, and for the first time in what felt like ages, I was excited about the future. But the euphoria of the night quickly gave way to reality. As I scrolled through my phone, I saw a barrage of notifications. Friends had tagged me in photos from the party, and the comments were overwhelmingly supportive. However, there was one message that stood out above the rest. Jessica had reached out again. "Please, can we talk?" It read, "I need to explain everything." I stared at the screen, feeling a mix of annoyance and curiosity. What could there possibly be to explain? She had made her choice, and I had made mine. But a part of me felt that I owed it to myself to hear her out, to understand her perspective. It would help me to put this chapter of my life to bed, and if nothing else, it would allow me to close the door on that part of my past once and for all. I texted her back, cautiously agreeing to meet. Fine. When and where? She suggested a cafe not far from our house. I didn't want to see her at home, not after everything that had happened. I wanted a neutral ground where I could keep my composure. After confirming the time, I felt a knot tightening in my stomach as the clock ticked closer to our meeting. When I arrived at the cafe, I was surprised to see Jessica already seated at a table, fidgeting with her coffee cup. She looked different, almost fragile. I could see the remnants of tears in her eyes, and it struck me that she was suffering too. But I quickly reminded myself that her choices had led us to this moment. I sat down across from her, the silence between us thick and heavy. "So, what did you want to talk about?" I asked, trying to sound as composed as possible. She took a deep breath, her voice shaky. "I know I've hurt you, and there's no excuse for what I did. I've just been so lost lately. I thought I knew what I wanted, but I was wrong." I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "You were lost. Is that supposed to make this better? You had everything, us, a life together, and you threw it away for what, a fling?" "I don't know," she admitted, looking down at the table. "I got caught up in the excitement. I thought it was just a phase, a distraction. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "It's a little late for that, Jess," I replied, my voice steady despite the emotions bubbling under the surface. "You made a choice. You hurt me, and now I'm trying to pick up the pieces. What do you expect me to say?" Her eyes filled with tears again, and she leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm deeply sorry for what I did. I can't change the past, but I want to make amends. I want to be better." "Better?" I echoed incredulously. "How? By stringing me along with your guilt? You can't just say you're sorry and think that fixes everything. You shattered my trust." "I know," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't want to lose you completely. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try to make things right. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." "Try to make things right." I shook my head, incredulous. "You had your chance and you threw it away. What makes you think I'd want to give you another shot when you've already shown me who you are?" "Because I love you, and I realize now what I had," she replied, looking desperate. "I've been a fool, and I don't want to lose you for good. Please just think about it." Her words hung in the air for a moment, and I felt a surge of conflicting emotions. On one hand, I wanted to believe her, but on the other, the betrayal was too fresh, too painful. I had come to this meeting thinking it might provide some closure, but instead, it felt like opening an old wound that was still raw and bleeding. "I don't know, Jess," I said finally, my voice catching. "I need time. I need to figure out what I want. I can't just pretend things are fine after what you did." She nodded slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I understand. I just wanted you to know how sorry I am. I'll always regret what I did." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our history hanging heavily between us. I felt a mixture of pity and anger watching her cry, but I also felt a sense of strength. I was no longer the man she had betrayed. I was someone who was willing to stand up for himself. Eventually, I got up to leave. "Take care of yourself, Jess. I hope you find what you're looking for." As I walked away from the cafe, I felt lighter. I could sense that the meeting had given me the closure I needed. It was a necessary conversation, but I had made my decision. I wouldn't allow her to dictate my happiness any longer. I was moving on and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. In the days that followed, I focused on rediscovering myself. I picked up hobbies I had neglected, spent more time with friends, and began to heal from the heartbreak. I even started dating again, cautiously testing the waters and exploring what it meant to be single. I realized that I was stronger than I had ever given myself credit for. I had faced betrayal, but I was not defined by it. Instead, I was becoming a new version of myself, one who embraced freedom and sought joy in every moment. I knew that I would never forget what Jessica had done, but as time passed, the pain began to fade. I was learning to let go and to look forward with hope, and in that hope I found the strength to truly move on. As the weeks turned into months, I settled into my new life with a surprising sense of optimism. I still had moments of sadness, of course. There were nights when I'd lie awake, replaying memories of Jessica and the life we had built together. But those moments were fewer and farther between. Instead, I found myself surrounded by supportive friends who lifted me up and reminded me that I was deserving of happiness. The divorce process was straightforward, albeit emotionally taxing. I signed the papers, each stroke of the pen representing a complete severing from my past. It was an odd mix of relief and sorrow. I had hoped that formally ending the marriage would finally close the chapter on that part of my life. I felt as though the weight of the world was being lifted off my shoulders. One Friday evening, I found myself at a local bar with a few friends. We were celebrating my newfound freedom and the completion of my divorce. Laughter filled the air and I couldn't help but smile at the camaraderie around me. I felt a sense of belonging and support that I had sorely missed during my marriage. "That's the spirit," Tom exclaimed, raising his glass. "Here, to new beginnings and better choices. Cheers to that." I responded, clinking my glass against his and the others around the table. As the night wore on, I engaged in light-hearted conversations, flirting with the idea of dating again. My heart began to open up to new possibilities, and I felt a spark of excitement at the thought of meeting someone who could appreciate me for who I was. Just then, I spotted a woman sitting alone at the bar, her vibrant smile catching my attention. She had dark hair that danced around her shoulders, and her laughter was infectious. I felt an urge to go over and introduce myself, but a brief moment of hesitation washed over me. Would I be able to open up again after everything I had been through? But in that moment, I decided to take a leap of faith. I approached her, my heart pounding with anticipation. "Hey there, I'm Jake. Mind if I join you?" She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling. "I'd love that, I'm Sarah." We dove into conversation effortlessly, sharing stories and laughter. There was a chemistry between us that felt refreshing, and I quickly realized I hadn't felt that spark in a long time. As the evening progressed, I felt a genuine connection growing between us. I was reminded that, despite the pain of my past, there was still joy to be found in new experiences. By the end of the night, I had her number and I felt invigorated. Yes, I had once been hurt deeply, but this chapter of my life was different. I was moving forward, not looking back. In the following weeks, Sarah and I went on several dates. She was kind, funny, and had an infectious energy that I found myself drawn to. I knew I needed to take things slow, but I also felt that I was ready to embrace the possibility of love again. I was no longer the man who had been betrayed. I was a man reclaiming his life. I eventually confessed to Sarah about the divorce and everything that had led to it. To my surprise, she listened intently, offering me understanding and compassion rather than pity. "We all have pasts," she said with a warm smile. "It's how we choose to move forward that really matters." Those words resonated with me, and I began to see my past not as a burden to carry but as a part of my journey, one that had shaped me into who I was today. I was learning to embrace the lessons, to grow from my experiences, and to appreciate the strength I had gained. As time passed, I found myself fostering a deeper relationship with Sarah. We shared dreams, laughter, and the kind of connection that I had longed for. It felt good to be vulnerable again, to open my heart to someone who genuinely cared. We explored new places together, made memories, and slowly built a foundation of trust. One day, while walking through a park, I took her hand and smiled. You know, I never thought I would get to this point again after everything, I admitted. But here I am, feeling grateful for this moment with you. She squeezed my hand, her eyes shining. Life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it? I'm so glad we found each other. In that moment, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I had come so far from the hurt and betrayal I had experienced. I had risen from the ashes, not just as a survivor, but as someone who had learned to embrace life and love again. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that betrayal had taught me resilience. I had faced my demons, confronted my pain, and emerged stronger than before. I knew there would still be challenges ahead. Life was unpredictable, and no one could guarantee a future without difficulties. But I also knew I had the strength to navigate whatever came my way. As I continued to build a life with Sarah, I took comfort in knowing that I had chosen to move beyond my past. I would never forget Jessica or the lessons learned from that chapter, but they no longer defined me. I was writing a new story, one that was filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. And that alone was worth celebrating.